Alright, and since these are countersunk holes, these will not interfere with the operation of the draw in any way, which is nice. So now, just basically going to repeat this whole process on the other side of the draw. Okay, so now I have the other side on. So now, the moment of truth, I'm going to have to, let's see, to make life easier, I'm going to tilt the couch back down. Too wide. I'm going to try and take one of these out completely and see what happens. Okay, it's pretty close. It's able to fit between the two, but what's happening is it's rubbing right there. So what's going to happen is as I run the draw in and out, it's going to drag on this side. So I think all I need to do is plane off a little bit of wood off this side. You know, I was just thinking I was about to take that out and set up the planer and go through all the trouble of planing that, and then I realized I've got this thin spacer on each side here. I bet you if I take one of these thin spacers out, it'll be perfect. Alright, so this thin spacer is just stapled on. So I should be able to just pry this off. Ow! Yeah, I don't even need a screwdriver. Oh, I just gave myself a sliver. Oh yeah, that's real quality there. Alright, here's the draw slide remounted without the spacer on there. Let's see how that works. Okay, I think that's going to work. The width seems good now. The draw's not going all the way in, but that's because of these angle pieces in the back that they put on here for some dumb reason. Let's show you. See these pieces right here? These are supposed to, I think, keep the draw from coming all the way out. Although the draw slides are supposed to do that, but I don't know why they put these on here. We kind of bent them up taking the draw out because we didn't know they existed. I think I'll just put the couch up on its back and take those off. Wow, what a pain. I got this side locked in. This side fell out. Now that I look at it, it does still look like it's still not in the right position. And this is just ridiculous. Alright, I've discovered part of the problem. Part of the problem is because this drawer is so poorly made on this side that with this draw slide screwed on without a spacer behind it, it's actually rubbing really bad. What's happening is it's rubbing on the top here. You can actually see this part of the draw slide right here is making a rub mark right on there. And that was actually on there before from the original one. It's actually gouged right into the wood, a groove. So that's how that happens. So I'm going to take that off and fix that. Okay, now that's helping, but it's still rubbing here at the end. And the reason is because if you look as I mounted the spacer back on, it now kicks out this way. And that's because the end of the plywood here was cut too long originally. You can actually see, if you look really closely, you can see where they bashed this down with a hammer to try and make it smaller instead of going back and correcting their error. So what I can do to fix that is just cut off this last section of this spacer, because the actual draw slide ends about here anyways. So I cut this off, it's not needed. And that'll leave the clearance, because what's happening now is this rub mark is actually the little pin right here that's supposed to be for the self-closing mechanism is actually catching on that and rubbing. Well, that's better, but it's still rubbing a little bit when it gets to this last section right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this all the way off. I'm going to cut this off so it's the same length as the rail. Just finished cutting off this bad part, or this extra part, and I noticed something. I noticed that this wood is actually not uniform thickness. It's got some variation in thickness near the end there, which is another reason why I was having trouble. It's actually thicker on this end than it is on that end. Probably can't tell from the camera, but it is. Ah, now this one, this draw slide, is working the way it should. Even the self-closing is a lot smoother because the pin is no longer hanging up where it was hanging up. So this side is fixed. Not sure if the width is going to be okay, but let's check the other side. You know, I got the rail still mounted on the couch. I think what I'll do is, instead of taking that off there just to see if it's rubbing, I'm just going to assume it's going to be a problem like the other side. Take this spacer out and cut it short like I did the other one. Alright, now I got the other spacer on and cut short, so let's try and install it again. Alright, I've got it in, but it is a little too tight. So I think if I take this thin spacer off of this side, I'll be all set. Well, I think we got it. It looks pretty good, lines up pretty nice, and it actually is operating the way it should. Even the self-closing mechanism's working, or the mechanism that kind of keeps it in the closed position seems to be working okay. So now I'm just going to put these brackets back on that were on here that are supposed to keep the draw from, you can see this is where this metal hits. So these go on here like this, and essentially they're supposed to keep the draw from being pulled out too far. I flipped that around because I think I had it on backwards. I think that's the way it goes. I don't even understand the relevance of these, quite frankly, because it's not like the draw is going to be able to come all the way out. The sliders actually have a maximum extension, and they have a stop on them. In other words, if I slide this draw out like this, like it's supposed to, it can only come out this far, and then the draw slides lock. And I think that's actually happening before those metal pieces even engage the back of the wood here. So all those metal things really effectively do is, if this draw becomes unlocked from the rails, stops it from being able to come all the way out. I'm not sure what the purpose is, but see, the draw works pretty well now. Still kind of does this deal here, but that's because this is such a wide draw. So, but more importantly, it's nice smooth operation. It gets a little tight when it gets in right here, but it also, when you push it closed, it kind of locks the way it should, so that it's not going to want to fly open or slide open going down the road. So all I got to do now is move that back into position, and I think that's going to be done.